Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of This Week in Hospitality Marketing, live show number 332, and season greetings. As you can tell by my slightly biased holiday decorations, I am a Buccaneers fan. Long before the reason for most people currently are Buccaneers fans. I was back when it was popsicles and creamsicles and really odd color uniforms. But besides from that, thank you all. I know we talked to an international crowd of 39 plus countries, so NFL football may be one of those. Okay, what is that? Not a worry. We do thank you very much for being with us, and also for watching whatever simulcasting you may catch us on when it is a more convenient time zone. We all do every week, and we have been doing it for 8 years now. Every week, we simulcast our show during live times as this, but we also recast it at 11:30 a.m. Wednesdays on Sydney Australian time and 11:30 a.m. UK London time on Wednesdays, so that we can make sure we make it a more equitable time zone. Although we do sincerely appreciate, because we do simulcast on multiple platforms: Facebook, multiple pages; LinkedIn, one page, because that's all that's allowed; YouTube, multiple pages; and Twitter, multiple pages; and also on YouTube, multiple pages. With that, we also broadcast on our TV channel, hospitalitychannel.tv, 24/7 TV channel. And also, you can find us on your Roku TV. You can find us on your Apple TV. You can find us on your Google TV. And you can find us on Amazon Prime. With that also being said, you can find us on Twitch. We simulcast on Twitch, which allows us to push into the game boxes and so forth if you use as your primary media medium. So we have pretty much probably kind of checked all the boxes to where we broadcast, which brings us up to today's topic. We have kept our show now more to a one topic, 1 hour conversation, or up to 1 hour, I should say. And our conversation today is about video, about broadcasting, and about your ability to be in that space, not just from the way we're doing our show, but also more importantly, and more critically, I would have to say, because it's more attainable, is advertising in this space. So today's topic is OTT and you. So, what is OTT? OTT is over the top. I know it sounds a little anticlimactic, but over the top TV is coming to its own based on how TV has been consumed. So indulge a little bit in a historical retrospect as to where we've gotten to where we are now from the history of what we've had. TV used to be a broadcast only medium in the sense that you needed an antenna stuck over your house or wherever you lived to receive the local broadcast signal. That's back in the days, if you're old enough to remember, where you had to have the rabbit ears and you had to um, change channels on the big box that was sitting there, big, you know, tube TV. And as a child, we were the channel changers. And you were pretty much reduced to the primary um, VHF channels of ABC, NBC, and CBS. And from that, you had those, and they usually went off the air at somewhere around midnight, and you had the, and had the national anthem. Dun, 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 dun. Well, those days have long since gone, right? For those nostalgia looking back, going, wow, remember when there was no TV after midnight? Um, you had UHF, which was also broadcast capable, which was more open to the public. So there was a little bit of diversification of content, but one, you had to have an antenna and be in proximity to the broadcast well enough to pick it up, which meant that the UHF channels that you had were very localized. You had to be in the broadcast range, where ABC, CBS, and NBC were national distributions, so that whatever the national broadcast was, it was shared to all of its affiliates throughout the country. Then along came other TV channels that gathered other channels from this, but then cable came along, and cable revolutionized how we consumed visual media. Keep in mind, this was all before internet rolled into the world. This was prior internet, consumer internet. And so what you had was, with cable, you had new channels that were beyond just the ABC, CBS, and NBC. Plus, you had a consistent broadcast. Storms didn't make it harder to watch the TV channel. Now, during this whole time, whatever channel production was played, you didn't really have a means of replaying it. So if you missed the live broadcast of it, you missed it until they did a rerun of it somewhere years later, perhaps. And about the time cable started coming into its own, and they were installing cable into neighborhoods and so forth, and cable boxes, then Beta Max and VHF Wars came along, and it was a recording format that was now made available to consumers. It was still pretty expensive when it first started, but it was available to consumers that they could now record what they were watching on TV, whether it was off of the antenna or whether it was off cable. They could record what was there, as long as their VHS was attached to the same broadcast reception that they had before. So, in other words, along came splitter boxes where it went to the TV and went to the VHS so that it could record its own stuff. And it was cool because you could record a channel you weren't watching, and on and on and on. Those were the days, eh? And then it went into where you started to where we're getting now. Well, then you have satellite. Sorry, I'm bypassing a small little step there. Then from cables, TV being the part of it, then you had satellite TV, where the cable wiring didn't have to physically be brought to your house. You could slap a satellite dish on your house and receive cable content via that way. Cable content being the content you would be finding on cable, the HBOs, the Cinemaxes of that time was available for you on satellite. Now, all of that meant that you had to pay for the content as a subscription. The more you paid, the bigger the subscription you got, the more channels you got. And so it had been pretty much patterned that way. Advertising on those channels was very similar to what it was back in the broadcast days. Very expensive and pretty much nationally available. Like if you wanted to broadcast your business, you had to pay national prices because when it went out on these channels, it went out nationally. It was there was very little option. There might be some slight regionality to it, where you could do the southeast or the northwest or something, but for the most part, it was you picked when you were going to advertise, paid the money to do it, so it broadcasted at that time. So it was very lofty advertising dollars. Some of these things that came out of this was obviously like the Super Bowl, where it's the literal Super Bowl of advertising. The cost factors were astronomical to buy 30 seconds on the Super Bowl. It turned into the notoriety of that was the apex of TV advertising is to advertise on the Super Bowl because of the large audience size that was watching it. And this was measured by companies like Nielsen that had boxes on people's TVs throughout the country to see what you were watching at what time so they could assess the audience sizes of the shows and hence charge accordingly for the advertisement. So that is how we've gotten up towards our world now. What has happened is because of the proliferation of internet access. First off, remember that internet, getting your own internet to the house, uh, was usually a phone, analog. Put the phone in the cradle and get your dial-up modem, 2400 baud or whatever, and it would talk to your computer. Very slow, certainly not capable of playing anything live. Most likely, it took almost all night to download something, even audio wise, let alone video, if even the video content was available. Websites were the same thing. As websites began to come into their own, watching even simple animation was challenging. It was usually a dark box on the website until the computer eventually, over its communication speed, caught up with enough data. Well, it wasn't really functional because a lot of people didn't want to spend a lot of time on the websites waiting for whatever was supposed to be in that little black box to eventually appear. So it really wasn't viable to be in that space. It was more about text. And if you were lucky, and as speeds begin to increase, with the modem dial-ups of beyond 2400 baud into 56K, woo, and then G, was a big thing. Like, oh my gosh, G. Um, so with that, and you had the routers and the internet services to your homes, more and more content was able to be introduced into the internet. Now, we haven't talked about mobile at all. This has just been a progression of your internet access to your house, usually with a desktop with an old tube monitor to it. And you would see stuff on it, and you begin to see pictures more frequently because it was the speed allowed it to happen. Eventually, you started seeing animations, GIFs that would show up, but very little video. Again, any sort of video was usually downloaded for later at best, not live in production. But as speeds began to improve, so too that became easier to put video animation and animations into your websites. It also began to mean that you could add more video content that would play on these desktops. Now, that's the progression in that direction. In the same time, mobile began to emerge. And at first, just the cellular connection was necessary for audio communication and texting. And texting was actually more reliable because it required less connection strength and content load. So it was actually more consistent to be able to text if your audio couldn't connect, because towers were a little spread out. There wasn't a lot of coverage. It was mainly metro areas. And so you had to share towers with other people, and they often would get filled up depending upon how busy they were, how many people had cellular phones, and it was very expensive to be on a cell phone because they were being charged by the time consumed on it, the data being consumed on it. So it wasn't really, you appreciate somebody sending you a large file on your cell phone, which you could receive it, because you ended up having to pay for it. You even paid for your text messages. So with that all in mind, video was slow to the game when it came to content and information that you could share. So, as the internet speed began to improve at home, we began to find hardware that was being provided that allowed us to connect the internet to our TV so that we could get internet-based content available on our TV. Um, Remember when Blockbuster was, in order to watch a movie, you went to the Blockbuster store or move show the stores like that, and you literally took the DVD, rented the DVD if it was in inventory, brought it home, played it in your DVD player, which is pretty upgraded from your VHS one because it started that way, VHS tapes. And get mad at people that didn't rewind them before bringing them back, and or the tape was all garbled, and you were looking forward to the movie and the tape didn't come through and you had to go back to the store. Hopefully they had a copy of it, on and on and on. Well, still, on demand video didn't really exist. It was more about playing DVDs at home on these TVs. And the internet access to it, like the Netflix, changed the world in that medium, because now Netflix was able to say, don't worry about going to the store. At first, Netflix started mailing these things to you. That was their first intro into the market. For those that may remember, Netflix would put it in the mail, send you the DVD, so you could order ahead of time. So, as a convenience factor, you didn't have to go to Blockbuster. You could just go on Netflix, go onto their website, and say, "I want this movie when it comes available, that movie when it comes available," and you get them in the mail. And like, this is great. And you could play them as long as you wanted to, and then send it back when you were done. And that really underpinned the Blockbuster model of showing up at the store to get whatever VHS tape or DVDs that they had, and the fact you had to bring it back sooner rather than later. So Netflix then began introducing that rather than send you a DVD, you could get it where you could play the movie on demand. So that was needing internet connected to your TV. So you began to see what was called smart TVs develop. Smart TVs were TVs that where you could just plug in the internet to the TV, where instead of having to add another hardware piece connected to it, like, okay, uh, this box, you connect your internet and the cable to, because then the cable connection goes into the TV, and that's the source. And then from that source on the TV, you have to play the internet stuff. To the internet sourcing was going directly in its own connection to the TV. You didn't have to connect it separately from the other feeds that you had, or split it off with other sources of the feed. It could run itself. I might be getting too technical geeky here, but the idea that this transition, this progression of internet on demand video, because the internet speeds have gotten to a point where you could feed enough of that connection to the TV so it could play videos, was a big step in what we're talking about today. Um, that comes into the world of OTT platforms. You have video on demand. Picture Netflix. Okay. Now, we know from cable long ago went from paying for a subscription to a channel to adding the fact that if you wanted to play a certain thing, you could pay for it or ask for it on demand on their channel. That had been something they were progressively growing into. That was splintered with OTT platforms. So video on demand comes in. You can watch what you want to watch, and cable was providing that. And then now all of a sudden you have this other perspective of on over the top platforms. Okay, OTT platforms. They were in contrast to cable and satellite. This put cable and satellite together. OTT platforms have three fundamental components to them, and it's just full of acronyms today. You have AVOD, SVOD, and TVOD. Let's break them all down. So, SVOD is subscription based video on demand. So, subscription video on demand. Subscription video on demand is a type of service where we enter into a subscription agreement. Think Netflix. Okay. They'll grant you access to what they have available, and then you pick what you want to watch when you want to watch it. Here's our library. And I want to watch that. And you click on it. And because you've paid for the subscription, you get to watch whatever content's available. Okay. Much like what we have for our hospitality channel TV is you pay the $4.99 a month and you have access to our library of content that you can pick and watch different pieces of content when you want to. You don't have to wait and say, oh, it's going to be broadcasting at 11 o'clock this morning. I got to wait for it to play. No, you can play it on demand, the OD part, when you want to see it. So video subscription based video on demand is SVOD. The other one, TVOD, is transactional based video on demand. Transactional or transaction video on demand is normally not charging you for anything to sign up for the service to create a user profile. Instead, you pay an amount based on the content you watch. Okay. Most often this relates to like sports and events. Um, iTunes is an example of TVOD. Okay, you sign up for free. Here's my account, but until you want to watch something, you don't have to pay for it. So think for those that may be familiar with Vudu, VUDO, where you make an account and it says you have an account, and from there you can go over and have access to all their library. And when you see something you like, you pay for what you want to watch. Okay, like I said, like iTunes, where you go into Apple TV, you go in there and say, okay, here's all these movies that they have access to, and I want to watch this one. Well, to watch that one, I can rent it and or own it for two different prices. But either way, I'm paying for a transaction. I'm paying to have access to that piece of content. So that is TVOD. So we've gone through SVOD, subscription based video on demand, TVOD, which is transactional based video on demand. And the last one we want to talk about today, in sense of contrasting, is AVOD, advertisement based video on demand. Ad based VOD is a model that is free from users for users. You can sign up for it. Okay. Free to log in and stream videos. In return for spending time watching the ads at YouTube, excuse me, you get to watch. Sorry, that wasn't a very good explanation. You sign up for free and you can watch for free. But in order to watch, you have to go through the advertisement that is put on it. Think YouTube. YouTube is AVOD, advertisement based video on demand. I can watch YouTube, but in order to watch what I'm interested in, pretty much on everything now, you have to watch ads that says, okay, we'll give you this content, but you have to pay to watch ads to go over and see this stuff. So that's AVOD. Sorry, I'm getting excited about this stuff. So again, video on demand branched into two aspects: cable video on demand, which you pay a subscription for cable service or direct TV or satellite service, that kind of thing, or OTT, which is like your smart TVs and things that allow you to get online, internet wise. And of course, there's blendings of this. And you get to have three choices from the OTT platforms. Subscription based, you pay to get access to all the inventory. Transaction based, you pay for um, what it is you want to watch on their platform. And advertisement based, you have to watch ads to watch what you're wanting to watch on their platform. Okay. So again, examples of all these is SVOD is like Netflix, like Amazon Prime, like Hulu. Okay. Um, you pay to have access to their content. TVOD is like iTunes and Google Play. You sign up, and when you find something you're interested in, you pay for having access to that piece of content. And then the third, AVOD, is like YouTube. You have advertisement that you have to go through to watch all of that information or that content you want to have. So that's brought us up to the entry level of OTT and YOU, which is, so what? I'm not, other than knowing now the variations to what you have already been probably consuming, how does this affect you? We're going to talk a little bit about some tools that augment this and so forth, but I'm going to look at you when I say this. I know I can't see you, but I'm going to look at you when I say this and ask, are you doing any video advertising? Now, that's a very loaded question because it's up to the interpretation of what am I asking by video advertising? By means of, am I making content that I use to advertise myself, like, shows or how-tos, like, Home Depot kind of stuff? Or am I just advertising on those? Am I sponsoring those? And what aspect of advertising, video advertising, am I doing? A lot of people don't know the variations that they have available. They don't know even the 5 different types of advertisement that they can do on YouTube. And to that end, I want to stick a stick in the sand and start with something that is probably high common, not well understood, and certainly not familiar in the level of what to do with it or how to do things with it, and that is YouTube advertising. YouTube is the second largest search engine used by people. Think how you may use it. And I say that probably category everybody has used YouTube in some function. There are variations to the YouTube channel from the Vismes to the Ustreams and all what have you. There are I even have my own servers that run videos that are for my training programs and for my club programs and for my paid for subscription service on the TV channel that I don't put on YouTube because YouTube is in essence, for me to put it on there, YouTube has control over my content, and I prefer to keep it locked and encrypted so that people that give me money to get content that is unique to what I'm offering them, they can't easily discover it or even find out that it may be discoverable on a public platform like YouTube or an open platform that I'm not in control of. So let's go through the more direct way of what to do with YouTube and really the 5 types of ads that you can do on YouTube. And again, you're probably going to nod your head saying, "Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I have to go through that crap, whatever." So in YouTube, you have 5 types. The first and the easiest one to recognize is what's called the skippable in-stream video ad. And that is, you often see it's a little icon in the lower right-hand corner that has a countdown clock. And you're watching an ad. You have no choice. You went to go watch a video on YouTube, and this ad starts playing and you see the ad progress bar on the bottom like you would the video progress bar, but in the lower right corner you see a little tab that's sticking out saying you can skip this ad in, and there's a number and it descends, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, one, and then it'll change to skip ad. Okay, that's a skippable in-stream video ad. um, as you can imagine, because we give the option to the user to skip the ad, unless the ad is very well targeted, going, oh my gosh, that's really some smart stuff. Let me watch the whole ad. And we have done that. I've gone over and wanted to watch a video on something, and the ad's like, huh, I always want to know about that. And you want to watch the ad. But all that said and said, 76% of the people do skip the ad. The cool part about the skippable ad is that the ad text or the action of the ad that was skipped still resides on your screen. It still sits there, either in the upper right or lower third bar underneath of the video, so that should you want to go back and see more or find out more, there's call to action items within those ads to bring you out to whatever it is that the ad is trying to promote. So, first of the 5 variations is skippable in. Wow, that word for me is challenging today. Skippable in-stream video ads. The second is, of course, duh, flip the coin, non skippable in stream video ads. And of course, those are just the invert. You want to get past the video, but you can't. You literally have to go through the video before the video you want to watch starts. As you can imagine, not very popular for the user. Like, okay, I want to watch this. Now, you know that YouTube already offers what they call their premium service, where they'll reduce the ads. They don't take them away. They say ad free, but that's generic multi placement. It doesn't mean that sponsored ads or certain types of ads still don't play. Just a bulk of these annoying ads, like skippable and non skippable, especially, are removed in the premium service, or at least mostly reduced. I've seen examples where they still come through, but at least it's not as annoying as the fact that you're not paying for the premium service, so you will be stuck with non-skippable in-stream ads. As you can imagine from the advertiser side, non-skippable is more expensive to do. It's based on more of a CPM, per thousand views, cost per thousand, because you're looking at saturation. You're forcing people to watch it. So you're looking at abandonment and also engagement. And so you pay for the volume of forced viewing. So that's why it's a more always on a CPM view. But non-skippable video in stream ads forces the viewer to watch your ad prior to what it is that they're trying to get to. The third type of ad is what's called bumper ads. These are 6-second videos, and these run the kind of same thing, where they are non skippable. and at the beginning, but they're very brief. They only last a very short period of time. Okay. Um, if being brief, they have to have a very simple message, very quick, boom, call to action. Like if you were a destination ad displaying something really beautiful, beachfront, mountainside, whatever it is, and say, wishing you were here, find out how. That can be a bumper ad. Boom, message of intrigue, let it run. If you're trying to explain why you're trying to advertise to them and what it is that you have that might be of value to them, 6 seconds is not going to be your friend. Bumper ads are not going to be your friend because it's not clear enough to make the clarity of message. Some of the examples that popped to mind for me is Duracell has a great 6 second bumper ad, which is it shows a battery and it says number one trusted brand and it has the Duracell battery sitting in front of it. That's it. It's not telling you that you have to put in these certain toys or these certain price. It just says our batteries are the number one trusted brand. So in the world of battery purchases, and I'm looking at Duracell versus um, other products, okay, um, I'm going to think, that might flash back in my mind for retention. They do. Bumper ads do have a great lift in ad recall because it is succinct and very pointed and very clear. Not a lot of clutter, not a lot of need for interpretation. It's a clear message. And so they have a great recall. So bumper ads are very good when you have a very clear, concise, but albeit short, brief message. The next ad variation type is what's called discovery ads. Um, these are a lot different than what we were just discussed here. Okay, they are video ads that are indicated as ads, but they come through as results, paid results in search queries. Think Home Depot, um, where you may type in, and I'm looking at the example as I say this, of furnace not working. Okay. So what will happen in the YouTube results is you're going to get lots of videos of people that have tried to be helpful with their, well, this is what I did when my furnace wasn't working, what have you. And then there's a paid one, a paid video that talks about what it is that you've searched for as in furnace not working. It's like, okay, maybe the ad is from a company that says, you have no hot water or you have no heat. And there's a video ad that sits up on top of the video results that helps people um, determine that you might be a great resource for them. So it's a video ad, which is called a discovery ad, that your video, which can be long, it can be several minutes long. You could have your own how to. Again, that's why I keep using the Home Depot explanation, is because Home Depot uses a lot of these. Home Depot has learned and is very successful. One of the benchmarks of success on video engagement, they use discovery ads a lot because rather than just showing up well organically, which they do a lot of, okay, they also augment that with their discovery ads, which is anything from how do you hammer a nail to how do you hang up drywall to how do you put in a ceiling fan, how do you put in a Hunter ceiling fan, how do you put in a Bay Breeze ceiling fan. You've fractionally created brand recognition, product identity, geographies, and these discovery ads go a long way in augmenting that because even though there might be ads below it that are organically resulted in what you're searching for, you have the authentication of the paid ad being on top of going, wow, these guys are all over. Let me hit that reputable video about hot water furnaces not working. Then the well-intended local dude that has the bouncy phone that he's holding up while he's showing you what he's doing, you don't know if he's showing you the right thing, but Home Depot probably isn't going to show us crappy things, that kind of thing. So that's the fourth type of YouTube ad. The fifth and final one is the non-video ad, and this is where, and I'm want to make this the last one conversation about the YouTube, is where we begin to run into trouble of interpretation versus value. Non-video ads are the most affordable way of doing what you would call video advertisement without it being videos. It's text banner ads placed on videos. We've all seen them. They can be very annoying in people's perspective because it visually blocks out the video portion that they're looking to see in the video. It is truly, literally a non-video banner ad. It's a static image banner ad that is placed within YouTube. I call it the lazy man's ad. and hear me out on this. In the world of Google creation, there is the ability to add YouTube into your ad campaigns. First lazy part is that people will automatically add whatever imaging ad they're doing, display advertisement they're doing, and just throw YouTube in that pile. And these things will pop up at the discretion of YouTube and Google doing it because YouTube is Google. Okay. The second is that they are may take the extra step of actually creating a separate ad campaign that is just for YouTube, just for non-video banner ads or non-video ads. Those That's the next best step from not being, vanilla on the other one. These are lazy because these to me get used way more than they should, are not as targeted as they should be, and because they're not video and they're intrusive, like they're overlaid into the video and so forth, they constantly pop up. So there's a high frequency because they're cheap. So YouTube throws them in just about everything, anywhere, at any time. They're constantly popping up. Whoever makes videos and saying, "Yeah, I allowed ads in," these are the easiest ads to throw in there because they're really just a dime a dozen, and they're not as strong in the conversion by any stretch. And if they're not applicable to what they're being connected to, they certainly have a negative effect. But again, this is because they probably, as a client or as you as the provider, don't have rich media, aka video ads, okay, to actually advertise the four other ways that we've mentioned above this. Again, recap: skippable in-stream video ads; two, non-skippable in-stream video ads; three, bumper ads, 6-second videos; four, discovery ads, longer potentially, but discoverable in the search engine results for YouTube; and the fifth, as the one we're talking about, the non-video ad. Those are your YouTube options. The good of things with YouTube is that you can integrate them with your Google ad campaigns. That's the bad too, because as I said before, lazy wise, they'll go over and tell, "Oh, well, we're doing ads on YouTube." Yeah, not what you say it is. It's a banner ad, non-video ad, being slapped over other people's videos. That's not truly video advertisement, which goes back to my original question that I say, are you doing video advertisement? It's such an open-ended question because it can be, are you creating videos that is content that you're sharing? Are you simply creating video ads on other people's content that is valuable to them? Or are you just checkboxing and saying, yeah, I got a non-video ad and I'm pumping the heck out of that on YouTube, and it's not getting the full benefit of the results that you can for video? So that answers more directly to our OTT advertising on YouTube. And when I say over the top, they have YouTube TV now. It's great TV. I mean, we have it for our home subscription as well because it allows unlimited video DVR recording basically. And it allows us to say, "Oh, I like that show. Record that, record that, record that." It allows you, when you go to a show that you are recording, to say, "Oh, you want to go back and see the highlights," especially when it comes to sports. Um, it can tell you to start at the beginning or start live. It does some really cool stuff. When you have the weight of Google on behind it, it can offer a tremendous amount of value for what it is you're paying for, but you do pay for that. In all that process, OTT is the way people are going. And Roku has been the lion's share of business in this world when it comes to OTT TV, over the top TV, because it provides all these variations. One of the reasons why we keep saying we're on Roku TV as a TV channel, hospitality channel, is because so many people have Roku that you simply go on to the Roku and say, "Oh, look at all these channels. I want to add the channel hospitality channel." So you search hospitality channel, there it is, add channel, yes, poof, there you are. And you always get the live show here free. But if you want the paid content behind it, pay the subscription, it turns into like Netflix saying, "Oh, okay, I can pick what it is that I want to watch from this channel." And remember, as we went through the processes of the differences of OTT platforms, there's AVOD, SVOD, TVOD. Recap: AVOD, advertisement based video on demand, aka YouTube; SVOD, subscription based video on demand, aka Netflix, where you pay for the platform and get all the content. And then the third one, TVOD, which is transactional based video, aka like an iTunes and Google Play, where you open up a free account on it, and then until you find the content that you want, you pay for that particular piece of content. So those are your three types: SVOD, TVOD, and AVOD. We talked about YouTube, about the 5 variations of ads that you can create on YouTube as an advertiser. Now, as a wrap up to our entire conversation of this whole process, we're going to talk about other means to advertise. And I say this from the perspective that there are more and more channels becoming available to general advertisers. Hulu has been running their beta program for gosh knows when. And the really cool part about these new platforms that we're going to just touch on, I'm not endorsing any of them. I use them, but I'm not endorsing them to say, oh, this is the one you got to use. But they provide a level of service availability that is hard to do on each individual channel. So going back to the history of video advertisement, um, again, going back to when it was only antenna broadcast based, if you wanted to advertise on ABC, you had to do it nationally because they distributed nationally. And so your advertisement had to warrant a national campaign. And that was a very expensive dollar amount. They did begin to offer some regionality when it came to especially sports functions, where they said, "Oh, that's a sports team in the southeast, so we will let you broadcast on the ABC broadcast, NBC or CBS broadcast of that sporting event, and will allow your ad to run in the regional." To them, the benefit was they could now do 4 ads for where they could only do one before. And when Fox rolled in and so forth, and CNN and all these other entities like with cable and so forth, there was more advertising opportunities. But that was about the best they gave, was some sort of regional aspect to it, and it was really based on the content of the broadcast. This sporting event, this particular show, it didn't have anything to do with the demographics that you were choosing the ad to only show up for, because they couldn't tell that. They couldn't tell me by my Nielsen rating anything other than the generality of my geography and relative family size and relative age group. They didn't really have a lot of other metrics, and they didn't know which one of my family was watching the TV at that particular time. So they had to be very broad about that. Well, as you know from using OTT TV now, that when you log into Disney Plus or Paramount Plus or all these other pluses that are out in the world, there's actual users. Is it me? Is it my wife? Is it family? Whatever. And from that, they know the demographics that's watching the shows, and they can track that type of information. So now our advertising capability is to say, I want to advertise to this geography, this demography, and this type of product brand. And you can choose it to run so that if I'm watching that OTT channel compared to another family member of mine, the content is more to me than it is to them, because they know it's me watching because I logged into my user access of that platform. That ability to segment is actually spooky scary on the level that it's being done on TVs, because now it's not about the old Nielsen ratings of, is my TV on? Yes. What channel is it watching? Yes. They don't know if the TV's just running and anybody's watching it back then. They didn't know if I was watching versus my family, as I mentioned. Now we do. We know by interaction on the channels whether or not the user, as identified with the information that I have provided, is watching a particular show, and at what durability. Because as commercials run, you have sometimes the ability to skip, sometimes the ability to pause. And when you play back those shows and you skip certain ads and what have you, they know that too. But it helps in knowing that you are truly interested in that content, so that that content helps define your audiences, that maybe you may not be able to watch all these commercials because I'm skipping through them, but that means I know more about you because of what you're watching. And so I'll find other channels or other live event stuff that you haven't recorded that you are watching, to know that you would be a demographic that I'd want to target. That's the spooky, crazy stuff of this stuff, is that even though by recording and skipping through, they know by what you recorded and how you're watching it, who you are, to know where else to advertise to you when you don't have that full control of pausing and fast forwarding and what have you. That is almost as valuable as actually serving you the ad, amazingly so. So, for that reason, the ability as an advertiser for you to get out there and begin to mingle your advertisement capabilities with all these platforms turns very strong. And I'm using where else again? The logged in users is where everyone's going. This makes it for better for targeting and reporting. Ed, I completely agree with you, dude. That's kind of where we're at right now. I'm sorry if I just saw that for you. Um, so from that, the advertisement platforms that, like the Hulus of the world, that you have to get introduced into their beta, allows you for this kind of targeting. There are already other platforms that allow you the capability of integrating video advertisement on these channels of distribution. Platforms like Brandzuka, Foundy, There is another one that's just rolling out, and that's Jam Loop. I had to look at it because I just started building a campaign for it and I have to look at it. Um, Jam Loop is a little bit more robust in their minimum budget requirements because they are totally dedicated to OTT TV advertisement and all the diversifications of it. So, being only centric on that, they have a higher prioritization of placement capabilities because they are spending more money on these platforms. Whoever spends the most money has the more leverage, leeway as to where they can put their advertisement campaigns in priority. Places like Branzuka, which don't have the same level of minimums to them, allow for the ability to be on there, but you are in a bidding process against others that are looking for the same demographics and targeting that you are. And because of that, they may win, most oftentimes will win, compared to what you're willing to spend and allocate it for budget, compared to what something like um, a Jam Loop platform is offering to say, I'll take that space because I'm willing to pay this much, compared to you saying, I'd love to have that space, but I'm only paying this much. Very similar to your ad campaigns on paid platforms like YouTube, Google, and so forth, where you're in a bid situation where if you have a limitation of your budget and or willingness to spend per click, and somebody doesn't have those same limitations, they're going to get the position above you compared to what you're able to get because they're simply willing to go over and spend more money than you or apply more money than you for that particular spacing. It's in the same controllability world that those paid campaigns run. But the nice part is the same strategies of successful integration are have come into play as well. And explain this a little bit. This kind of goes to paid ad placements in general. I would never and still never will really try to pay for positioning in the first, second, or third spot. What do I mean by this? Well, as you know from any search engine result pages, there's a tremendous amount now of information that Google is providing, including their answer box and what have you. Below all of that begins your paid placement programs. Your paid advertisers go there before your organic results come in. And since we're a mobile based internet at this world, that requires a lot of scrolling to get down to these pieces to it. But there are a certain number of paid positions that are allowed to exist in the paid results. Think of it as position one through position five. And before it goes farther deeper, that you have to basically scroll down farther for other paid placements to roll in. To pay for position means that you are saying, I am willing to spend whatever money is necessary to be the first paid placement in the results that I've indicated. That can get very expensive. It can also get very counterproductive because if somebody like me is competing against you, I know that I can push your budget limit by trying to isolate out what you're willing to spend so much money for and bid high against you so that you end up spending most of your money to be ahead of me. Meanwhile, that allows me the space to look for other advertisement spaces because you've run out of money. So, with that being the case, it's better to what's called positioning strategy lower because think of this rationale: Google will never not have a number one position. There will always be somebody at the top of the paid placement program. No matter what they search for, unless it's trademark isolated, there will always be paid results. For as such, you don't have to pay to be number one to become number one. You just have to be available that when Google needs a number one position, that you're willing to pay for whatever it takes to be in there. A lot of times you get it at a huge, I wouldn't say discount, but a lower cost because Google will by default put you into that position. So if you can strategize by the volume of your budget and the number of keywords that budget's supposed to cover, if you begin to segment that properly down to certain pieces that are core, where the numbers are lower, the keywords are lower, but the budgets are large, you can find yourself well positioned regularly. Not always, but increase your percentage of voice by being able to place consecutively high in the paid results simply by margining yourself, being available with broad way of segmenting your ads. I know it might be slightly confusing to those that don't run paid ads, but this OTT advertising is very similar to that. If you know during prime time you will not beat the person willing to spend much more money than you or apply much more money than you for a particular ad placement, then don't try to compete with them and waste your money in that competition. Resign yourself to saying not at that moment, but that also means that other moments are available for what you're willing to spend. And if by based on conversion of what those ads generate, both in traffic and CPM models and what have you, you have the ability now to always be present because consistency is in some ways more important than cellular singular impact. And this kind of goes to the example of Super Bowl ads. They're not memorable. They're not memorable by product, I should say, to be more concise. You may remember the ad where all the chimpanzees are in the boardroom and the guy flips the chart because the chimpanzees aren't happy with the fact that the number is going down instead of going up, and he goes over and flips the chart so it looks like it's going up, and they all start partying or having fun. Tell me the company that did that. It's not about the product at that point, as it is the entertainment of the ad itself. That was a tremendous amount of money that they spent to be during the Super Bowl, but you didn't see a consistent exposure of that ad to residually remember what that provider, that service that they're trying to sell you was. And because of that, okay, thanks, Josh. Sorry, I'm looking at my note screen, but without looking at the chatting on the side. So I apologize, Josh. I didn't see that earlier. And also everybody else is coming. I'm sorry. I'm so ingrained with continuity on my conversation here. Thank you, Josh. So, from the perspective of moderating your budget to being consistently present, you have a higher likelihood of getting the residual value of conversion because of that reminder of like, oh yeah, that's that company that does that. You know what? I'm thinking about buying that thing, or I'm thinking about going there. Um, Let me go check them out. And if an ad that you're running isn't already in front of them, it's easy enough for them to find you for all the other efforts you do to be discovered by proper search or just by close name proximity. Right. So you have to make sure you're always present in all things. This isn't just a do one and don't ignore all the rest of it. This is all in coordination with all your block and tackle advertisements of, is your organic content supportive of your messaging? Is your messaging relevant to the content you have provided and available? Does it connect correctly? Does your ads go to the content that the ad is about? Because again, when we went through the 5 different variations of YouTube ads, it was very clear things like bumper ads, you have to be concise in there. You have 6 seconds visually and message wise to make your point. And if you don't have that clarity of message, don't do a bumper ad. But by the same token, if you have an in-depth, helpful content, like what to do when when you're in the market, or when you go to this event, what to be knowledgeable of, and you then do a discovery ad in YouTube that helps you get discovered for the fact that the event that you are wanting to sell people to stay at your hotel is relevant to, those ads and videos are great. And this kind of goes back to bragging rights and reality. I mentioned earlier on in the discussion that a lot of people either are intimidated by what they can't do, like video ads and advertising in video, and those that say that they do, but then do something like non-video ads in YouTube, which are non-video ads. They're just little banner ads that get placed on videos, and yet they think they're doing YouTube advertisement. Technically, they are, but realistically, they're not, because they're not producing content. They're only trying to overlay what their messaging is. And if the messaging doesn't match the content that it's being connected to, it's not really worth it. Now, going back to some of the variations we talked about YouTube, we had the different types early on that we talked about, the skippable in-stream video ad. The benefit of doing that versus the non-video ad is your ad, first off, is animated and is a video, which is good, but the residual ability for the ad to linger on the screen, whether it be on the lower third underneath the video or in the upper right-hand corner, still allows the fact that even though I want to get to the video that I want to watch, your ad was intriguing enough that even though I said skip it, I still can go see it once I'm done with the video content that I came here to consume. The non-skippable one can be a slight irritation, but again, it has a residual value for being able to be retained on the screen even after you had to be forced watching the video. So there's always good variations. And why I keep pointing to the YouTube variations, because a lot of these variations exist on other platforms in different ways. Not all of them, but some of them. When it comes to video ads on OTT, you can do a video ad. That's what we've been talking about. But also, and think of it this way, with all of this great content being developed by so many different people, you're back to the world of what radio used to be like, and old TV, where it's this show brought to you by Aftershave or whatever. You can sponsor someone's content where they actually provide the solicitation of the sponsorship for you. Now, this can be either done like you're doing it with ads, like say I'm going to put an ad on their content whether they wanted me to or not. That's where places like Brandzuka and Jamloop and Foundy can help you. Or you can go to the producer of the content and say, wow, chef's show that's doing shows about um, chefs in my market. I would love to be a sponsor of that show for you when you highlight our chefs in our market. Can you say brought to you by XYZ? Or, our show has been made in part by such and such, such and such. And make it a part of the show content itself. That exists for you as well. And that part is probably the most underutilized of an already underutilized medium that's available right now, because so many people look at, and like I said, using platforms like Branzuka and Foundy and Joomla and stuff, Gemloop, that you can go over and put your content on for advertisement. But the next best thing is to go out and reach out. And I say that from not just the video medium of OTT, but podcasts. There's a lot of podcasts that are great content that wouldn't mind saying, okay, you know what? Yeah, you are in sync with what I'm doing for content. So if I'm going to talk about XYZ products on my podcast, that you as an XYZ product could be the sponsor of that show. Or you know what? You like my show content in general, so you want to be a sponsor for a period of time. There's a lot of podcasts that do that. There's actually software mediums that provide this marketplace that says, here's podcasts looking for sponsors, here's sponsors looking for podcasts, and they try to match them up. So it's a very active world that doesn't often get caught up. Case in point, we have a new hotel opening in the market and so forth, and there's a lot of discussion about influencers. And we see influencers from the perspective of people that have audiences on social media platforms that you feel are representative of the demographics that you want to solicit to come to your hotel or come to your restaurant or whatever. And you reach out and you kind of, there's a lot of problems. In fact, we're going to do another live show about this, about influencers and how to mitigate them. Um, is the ability to go over and um, brought to you by the other longer like your guest. Yeah, right. Sorry, Ed. I just read your thing. The other longer, my doppelganger on TikTok. Yeah, 16-year-old, 17-year-old. I think she's probably even 18-year-olds at this point. Music sensation, whatever. But anyway, going back to what I was saying. So you have the ability to reach out to influencers in your market that aren't necessarily just social media based audience people. And then people will go over and do things wrong. Like they'll just go to the influencers, say, hey, we'd love for you to talk about our product. And they give them no qualification of what they mean by talking about our product. And the influencer, if influencer level strength enough, well, I want this for free. I want that for free. And all they do is show themselves doing stuff in it. Like, how cool am I that I get away with people giving me stuff and taking pictures of myself doing it? But they don't really tangibly improve your business. When you deal with influencers, you want to quantify what it is you want from them so you know what the potential result from their influence would be. That's a contract. That's something that needs to be done. But influencers in your market are far beyond those than just those on the social media platforms. They're influencers that have taken the effort to create podcasts, live stream shows about in your market, video production that's in your market on YouTube. There's a lot of YouTubers out there, that make a tremendous amount of money simply by cultivating their content to a market that's willing to pay for the content that they create. If I'm a beach lover and I do beach videos of all the cool beaches that I go to, and I have a resort that's on one of those beaches, let me reach out to the beach person that creates the content that's on their YouTube channel and say, dude, I totally will, or do that. Would totally love for you to go over and let me sponsor when you featured the beach that was literally in front of my resort. As a matter of fact, I'd love to have you come back and make some more content. That ability to use the channel, the medium of OTT, I want to get past the OTT's coyness of over the top and get to the true potential of consumer generated content that it represents. Less the fact that there's channels that mitigate what content they provide, the ABC, CBS, NBCs, the huge corporations that have a monetization model that they're driving and striving for, and even the HGTVs and food channels of the world that do the same thing. There is thousands of OTT developed content places like ours, Hospitality Channels being one of them, to be honest, that has content that is specific of interest. And from that, a specific audience is formulated. There are tons of channels where people that love coffee shops have a channel about coffee shops in Seattle, coffee shops in Portland. It's a channel. It's coffee shop lovers. And you literally, if you have a coffee shop, it's like, why not advertise on it? Because you're talking to a very dedicated, isolated audience of people that follow that channel, are most likely going to come to your coffee shop because, hey, they love coffee shops. I've also, for the same reason, and this goes into the OTT world in a completely tangented way, channels like Twitch. Channels like Twitch were built for gamers. And to give you a little sense of it, I was never a gamer until I got my VR headsets, and now I'm like, yay, I love this stuff. Is people love watching other people play games because they get better by watching these people. And I watched one day in fascination a girl that on that channel that was created for gamers, watching other gamers and giving them money, and people actually live like that. Is this young girl was running around Portland on a rainy night, rainy cold night. Let's put the two together, going and hopping between coffee shops live on Twitch, and people were coining her, giving her money as she was going to these different coffee shops, literally just showing herself there, going, and this is the menu, and their feature is Sumatran, da 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 da. And because people loved that content, and probably because she was a cute girl, like I got doppelganger Lauren Gray on TikTok, they were watching and sending her online monies to support her that she was willing to do this on Twitch. There are literally thousands of channels like that on a not simple platform, on a single platform like Twitch. That's how powerful this OTT program can be. The ability to segment audiences in such a way that you can talk directly to the demographics that are most relevant to your content. It can be overwhelming when you sit back and go, look, Lauren, dude, I got a hotel in this location. Um, that's great that all these things are available. And that's the part that I want to get to as our closing part of our conversation of today's show is there's a huge difference between awareness versus action, or honestly, understanding versus comprehension, or checkbox results versus action reaction stuff that we face. We face this. It's great that I'm aware of this stuff. I may even use the products and know, wow, that would be cool if I had an ad on that. Geez, how many people would I see would see my product if I advertise it? How do I do that? How do I get on uh, that channel? And a lot of times it is not a clear path for a lot of people. And even if it is a clear path, there's the first obstacle of, do we even have anything we can put on there? Is there any video that we actually can have related to what I want to talk about that's going to be worth for us to do? And then when you go to these providers of video, going, okay, so let me go to my agency. I want to do a nice little um, something, maybe a skippable in-stream video ad for content on YouTube about our holiday offer package, just let's say. And all of a sudden they go, well, first off, we're gonna what's the storyline? What, and it gets muddled in this dialogue of, well, we're gonna need to hire actors and actresses. We're gonna have to bring in a whole crew, expensive. Just picture dollar signs of to do this. We're going to have to go over and block out, and everybody has to disappear, and we have to do this at a time we can do this. And what's the messages, and we got to have that steamy cup of coffee just right, and the perfect flower arrangement behind them, and the perfect face holding the coffee cup, or the perfect family that's all laughing and smiling, skipping on your beach, or whatever it is. Skip all that. It isn't. One thing that's come out of the pandemic history that we've had so far is a tolerance for a variety of video quality. We're not talking about it being crappy quality, and by all means, I say this with all intent, no crappy audio. Audio is the killer of all videos if it's bad. No matter how good the video, crappy audio kills good video. It's correlated. It's written in stone. It came from atop of a hill with a burning bush, the whole 9 yards. So whatever you do for video, there's a huge tolerance for prosumer wanted to, best effort kind of stuff. Keep the audio good. Make sure that when somebody's talking, you can hear them. Make sure that whatever you have in the background isn't overpowering them, and make sure that what your messaging is succinct. Don't ramble, preamble, whatever. So you can make the phones that we have now have the resolution capability. Matter of fact, the iPhone 13, which is a 12, it's not even a 13, has cinematographic quality, which means, and you've seen it on TV all the time, foreground sharp and clear, background blurry. Somebody be in the background goes to talk, they turn sharp and clear, foreground turns blurry. That cinematographic effort is literally in a phone now, phones, and that you can do. And the stabilization that your phones can do, meaning that you're not bouncing around, so forth, just walking, your phone can adjust for that. So it's more about what you think is the best message. and literally going through and walking through the facilities like, hey, you know what? I can do this myself. I'm going to prop my phone up and I'm going to talk about and show this, and that's my ad. Or it could be, you know what? We have the holiday package stuff all in the lobby right now with the big tree and the stuff like this. Let's start shooting. It was like, hey, everyone, happy holidays, blah, blah, blah. We're such and such, looking forward to you coming through. Da, da. And that could be your video message. It doesn't have to be written in stone. It's only can be 30 seconds. It can only be this. Longer's bad. Shorter has to be succinct. That's your guidelines. Like we said, when it comes to bumper ads, 6 seconds is all you got. So you have to make sure your message is clear and concise. But it can be any range that fits for you for the message that you have. The biggest part of it is that the message is worthy of it and that it goes to a place that supports the message. Don't just drive them to your website where now like, okay, you said there was some winter special, but I'm looking at a generic hotel website. Where am I supposed to find? Oh, it ain't worth it. Click and they're gone. And it was wasted effort. If you're going to talk about something, bring them to where you can fulfill and fill in the information. Remember, ads are actions. They're not explanations. They're not tutorials. You want to do that as a video, then do a discovery ad like Home Depot does. Like, this is how you fix your home heater, and do an 8-minute video on how to fix your home heater. That's different. If you have that kind of content and you want to talk about all the things to do downtown and it's a 5 or 6 minute video that's all about the cool stuff and you do it in a way that exposes all these things to it, great, do it. And use it as a discovery ad for people wanting to do things in your downtown XYZ location. But if you're doing ads, video ads, then if it can't be succinct like a bumper ad, then be complete with the messaging as an action item. This is what you need to know, and what you need to do about it is to click here or click this or find out more here. And that brings them to a place on your site that has the depth of information to solicit a conversion. Key elements to all of this. Just having a video ad that shows a bunch of chimpanzees in a meeting room being upset about the fact that a chart shows that it's going down, you flip it to going up and everybody's happy. You don't remember the business. Cute, funny, shareable, way expensive more for what it was worth for what they did at the time. But at the end of the day, oh, by the way, it was careers. That's what it was for. You're tired of your career, working for a bunch of monkeys, whatever. So kind of relevant for today in that sense. We are at the point, well past our point. Good God, I went 2 minutes past our point. Thank you for letting me reamble and all the other rambles on this, on the process. I hope it clarified a lot of things for what OTT is, the variations on simplistically video ads, and the platform variabilities that you have options for, and some of the tools that you can use for it. Thank you for the privilege of your time. Next week, we're still going to do a show. We do it every week, 8 years and plus. Well, actually, we're in our 8th year, so I can't say 8 years and plus. We're in our 8th year, weekly. So next week after Christmas Day, we might have a little shorter version of the show, but we will have a show as always. Thank you, everyone that's on all the platforms, and I so apologize to everyone. Josh, Ed, thanks. Hey, Ed, good to see you again. That we're here on the content, and but I will look through and make sure that I answer anybody's questions that popped up that I did not on all the channels we do. Of course, you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, all those platforms as usual. You also find us on Twitch. We talked about it. You can find us on your Roku, your Apple TV, your Google TV, your Amazon Prime, all those fun places as well. Just look for Hospitality Channel. I'll be doing a podcast, audio podcast afterwards. We've been doing that one for 17 years, which I'll have a quick recap of today's show as well, plus some interesting other tools and other topics and techniques. We'll keep that less than 30 minutes. And we hope to see you all. If actually, you know what? I'd love to see you all next week, but given that it's a holiday and the day after holiday is Christmas Day, I hope you have a absolutely joyous Christmas and holiday season, and a safe and healthy one at that as well. So for everyone that joined me today, my name is Lauren Gray. Thank you for the privilege of your time, and I so much look forward to talking to you next week.
Where I interview GMs and hotel owners and other amazing people about how to inspire a great culture and get great reviews. And visit my website, adelegutman.com.
And also, you will have your own page/channel on hospitalitychannel.tv for your podcast. I'm taking your podcast